Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to our today's webinar, where you will get a rather random selection of useful tips and tricks for IDIs 4.8. So during the next 35 to 40 minutes, you will probably see things you already know, but hopefully also one or another feature of IDIs that you maybe were missing just because you did not know it. My name is Sven Mosberger, and beside me is Daniel Rupp, who will do the second part of the tips and tricks sessions. If questions occur during our presentation, please keep them until the end of this webinar. In case you want to indicate us any technical problems or other urgent issues, please use the chat box on the right at any time. The webinar will be recorded in its full length, and you will get an email later on with a link to the record that you will then be able to share with your colleagues. I will start the session with some tips and tricks about simulation time, simulation speed, how you can speed up your model. For this, I opened here an example of a building of 50,000 square meters, and you can see here many windows, or you think there are many windows, but these windows, they are merged. If I mark them, you can see that in fact it's only one window. So here we have inserted some shading object, difficult to mark. Sorry for that. Try once more. No. Does not work. Here you go. Also the zones, you can see that the multiple rooms are merged to one zone here. So we really tried to economize the number of zones and number of windows. So this model has still approximately 120 zones. You can see here also that one complete floor is missing. That's because we used some zone multipliers. You can do that even with a higher extent. Can open another case here where you can see that more zone multipliers are used. So you can see here the zone multipliers. So for instance, the meeting room, you have 29 of the same kind. So like this, we have here a 30,000 square meter building with approximately 30 zones, or even a bit less. So what I can show you maybe now is a small comparison between two different level of details of a model, also to show you how to save number of zones and windows when importing from IFC. So if I import here our probably most imported IFC file, this small office building, you maybe know this feature where I can make a separate zone from every remaining IFC space. This is maybe most economic during concerning working hours, your working hours, because you just let the machine then do the zoning, meaning that every space is one zone at the end. I go to the visual filter and delete or unselect the IFC model, and you can see the zones, the windows of this building. And what I do now, I just start the simulation to show the simulation speed. And while this is happening, I will open a new additional session. And I will import the same IFC file, but this time saving number of zones and number of windows. You can see here the simulation speed of my model. I open another one now. And now I'm using this merge windows feature. You will see what will happen after that. And I will also use another feature now, or another mode when creating new zones here. That is, make a separate zone from, a single zone from all marked IFC spaces. Like this, I can do one zone of these 5 spaces. I can do one of these 2 spaces, another one of these 2, maybe one for the corridor. One for this region of the building, one for the atrium, and one for the entrance. And I will go to the 2nd floor and do the same there. And again, I'm turning off the IFC model to see my simulation model, and you can already see that the number of zones is reduced and also the number of windows is minimized. Another thing to speed up is the time split parallelization. So if you go to simulation data, at advanced, you will see here use time split parallelization. And when now running this model, first you will observe that it takes a little longer until the simulation starts, because now the model is split into some parallel models that will be run in parallel. It will be the simulation period that is splitted. But soon the simulation will start. This model is now splitted into 8 parts. So first of all, at least you should see that the speed is faster. Maybe it's due to the webinar that this is not so smooth as it is usually, but you can see that it's faster. And you will also see that after 1.5 months the simulation will stop because all the other parts of the years are run in parallel here. So we will come back to this example later on. Maybe we can wait until the fast model is finished, because that will soon happen. We are already 1 month is done, so there are 2 more weeks to run there. Because you will then also observe that at the end of the simulation it again takes a little longer, because all the results of these 8 parallel models need to be merged into one model, and that is what is happening now at the end of this simulation. Okay, we'll later on compare these results. I will just show a few more things with the same model here. One thing you should actually also avoid is that if I go, for instance, to this corridor now, and maybe in reality I do have some cooling panels here, so please also avoid having multiple cooling units. Of course, instead of having maybe 10 of those of 1 square meter, you can also have just one. Your results will not be very different, and you can also drag them over the floor plan, actually, because it will cut here. So you will see that if you have 7 times 2 meters, the surface actually is less than 14 here, because this surface is cut. So you can try to get your 10 square meters like this as well. Another thing is a large vertical opening. So a thing you should avoid to do is using large openings just to create geometry. I show you an example here. So if you, for instance, have a zone with a higher air space, for instance, in the back, like this, and you want to have one zone here, or one room, or there's just one airspace, so many users, they insert a big opening here, because they know that you also can select opening without door, and you will get one airspace here. But the better way to do is not to use this opening, but to use the merge zone feature. So if you mark both zones here and right click, you can select merge zones, and you will get one zone here. That means that the model only has one zone, not here, with a multiple number of walls against it, of course. So let me see what's happening, or what happened with the other model. It's still running. Means I can show another thing, which is about control. So I open this one. It is a typical case here. I have a window with a cooling control, measuring air temperature and switching or opening and closing the window when the air temperature is too high. And running this model, it's just a one zone model. You can see that is quite slow for a one zone model. And you can immediately see with the results that something bad is going on here, because the window is opening and closing all the time. So this here is an easy case, because we just have one controller, so it's simple to know which controller it is. That might be different if I have a control with many controllers, and I have to find the one who is causing this problem. So when replacing this with a PI controller, I have to put it in the cooling mode. You will first of all see that the simulation is much faster, and the result here is a bit different, but in average the results actually are the same. It's just that the window opens with that degree that is set point temperature is reached. So let's go back to the other model and have a look at it. Just look at the energy here and compare it with the other one. I think it should be this one here. You will see that both results are very similar. Can also check another result here. Again, it is the same. So of course it depends what you want to look at. I mean, if we are looking at room unit heating power, for instance, you will see that of course you have more detailed results here, and if you are really need distinguish between these corner rooms and other rooms. Sorry for that. Of course you will need more detailed zoning here. So that was about simulation time. Let's go to the next topic, which is drag and drop. So I'll open another case, but I will do that already by dragging and dropping. So you can do that with many software, also with IDEs. You drag and drop one file into the program, and it will open. In this case, you will find some resources, and you can drag and drop these resources to other projects. So if I open a completely new one, I can drag and drop. I can drag and drop some. For instance, my glazing, that's a glazing type. I can drag and drop here, which means that then I will have this here available, this glazing in this new project. I can also, before simulating even, I can drag and drop new output files to the details tab. So I even don't have to create the advanced level in order to get new output files, new result reports. And with this output file, I can now use to log any variable. I go here, for instance, and take this Q sub, so the heating power of the primary heater, and I can log this to the output file. And when then running a simulation, take a short one, I will have this output file here, and again I can drag and drop other results from other reports here. So that's maybe a boring example here. It's better when I'm running a little longer simulation then, in order to have something to see. Where is it? Here is it. So I can drag and drop all the results in here. So like this, actually I can use this as a dummy output file, and later on I can drag and drop all the variables I want to have in one diagram and rearrange my diagrams after the simulation. Also for the version handling system, some of you may know the version handling system. You can have a few drag and drop issues there as well. So for instance, when starting with a new empty, or even if there are already a few other cases in there, I can always drag and drop an existing project to this version handling project, and I will get this as a version. And when then defining the variables that occur in this table, in this version comparison table, I can again go to any variable. I take again my supply temp to supply power here. Can drag and drop this variable. Have to define the color code and so on, and I will get this column directly in here with the correct path to this variable. Another drag and drop, last but not least, if I go back to my control here. So I create the control. That can be a very complex one. I can save it to the palette. So I already did it here before. I renamed it stupid on-off cooling control. If I save it here, that means that in any new simulation project, I would then be able to use this in my windows, because I will have it here in the palette, and I can drag and drop it here to get the same control again. Yes, so for my part, the last thing, coming from the drag and drop features to some result features. So if I go to, do I have results here? No, not yet. So let's open any case and run the simulation. Sorry, I was clicking not to the button I wanted to. Let's redo that. So when opening a result, you may know that you can change the properties of this graph, like giving other colors and align width to the variables, but also present the variable in a completely different way, like color bar, for instance. Maybe that does not make sense to show this like this, but you can do that, and you can invent your own graphs here, and you can always save them, save form as. If you save them at any place where you, that you of course remember, you can then, if you have another case later on, maybe I open another one. What do I have here? Oh, let's go here. No, I missed that as well. I lost this as well. So let's redo a calculation. Of course, when I open this, any zone, and again the temperature. So this will again have the look as it has already all the time, but I can open it also with the form and select my form. I saved it on the desktop, and if I open it with this form, where is it gone? It will occur in the same Outlook as the one I used before. You can even use a channel place. So if you open this one, sorry, where was it? No, I lost it again. Here, I can save this again as form, and I can go to my private folder if I know where it is. It is in the users folder, and my username at UpData roaming EQUA, and here I go to my IDA lib ice, and if I store it here, it means that from now all these temperature graphs will be shown in this Outlook. So if I go to any case, I think I don't have results here. I open another one with results. I open in control, and I open this here. I will always get this way of presentation of my diagram. If you don't know where your private folder is, by the way, you can always go to View and go to Folders and choose Private Folder. You will be directed to the your private folder, where of course I will delete my temperature.idac now. And after doing this, I hope when closing and opening this case, I will have again the diagram presented as before. So I will hand over to Daniel. He will show some other tips and tricks.
So first of all, I'm going to show this diff function for these two zones here. So if I have two models and I want to know what are the differences between those two models, there is an option, it's a tool, it's called diff. And here I can select two projects and choose the level of comparison, and IDA will deliver a list of what's the differences in those two projects. So there is one resource only in the one project, and one project has a door in wall 1 and a different glazing for the window in wall 3. So another nice new feature is if I use a IFC file and I do a heating and cooling load calculation, there is now the possibility to go to Tools and Export to IFC. This will create an IFC file which I'm able to merge again in SimpleBIM with the original IFC file to deliver those results to other planners, for example. So another nice new feature, this is an updated tip and trick which we presented also in earlier versions, is if I press the Alt key, then I can move the zone here to another angle of the building body, and this is how I can use also the climate model for this zone. But in version 4.8 I'm also able to right click here on the building body and choose rotate view to align, which will align this view. And if I create a new zone here now, I am also able to use the climate model for this zone. This now also works in the roof editor. So if I go to edit roof, I can also rotate this view to align it. And another nice new feature is that I'm also able to align the points. I need to add the sticking force here. So I have a sticking force which will show the middle point, for example, of those 4 points here. So it's much easier to align the points in the roof editor. So another nice new feature is the split zone feature. So if I right click on a zone, I can split this zone with a slab, and I have to give the height where this zone should be split. And then I can see that this zone here now, which was one zone before, is now split in two zones. This also works with splitting with a wall. So there is this option split zone with wall, and then I can give the location of this wall, and this zone is now split in two zones. In the General tab there are also some nice new features. For example, I'm now able to multi-select in the General tab those rows. If I press the Control key, I can multi-select several zones. If I press the Shift key, the eyes will select all the zones in between the two clicks. Also new in 4.8 are additional columns in the Windows section here. So you find here now width and height of the windows, as well as the visible transmittance of the solar radiation. Another new 4.8 feature is in the resources. You will find here a button to remove unused resources. So if you click this once, the eyes will remove all the unused resources. There are also some improvements in the visualization. For example, if I visualize the heating set point here, I can now adapt this color bar on the left. If I double click it, I can give a min and max value. So for example, and I can also define my own colors here. And this way I can change the visualization of the results. This also works for constructions and surfaces. So if I visualize those constructions, I can, for example, select a different color for this roof here. I double-click the color, and then I select a new color for this roof. So another interesting feature is if I go to preferences, there is an option. It's called editable forms. Here in the subsections forms, I select this editable forms, and now I am able to adapt the forms. If I right-click, I can, for example, add a new field. Then I can browse to any field in the project. And for example, I want to use simulation data. I want to have the time split function directly here in the simulation tab. If I right-click and go to properties, I can also change the name here. And I can move it, and I can now directly select time split here. This is also, if I change now the tab, IDA asks me to save this form. If I save it, it will reopen the next time with this function added here. This is also very nice to add any form for a model, for a controller, for example. I already created it here. I added here a picture. If I right-click here, I added a new graphic, and I chose this picture. And then I added the input fields for this high limit, low, high, and tau, which are the parameters you can find in here. And if you have any questions, then please G.
Yes, I have a question about the merge for the openings. As your colleague showed in earlier, I just wondering, do we still have to put the opening between the two rooms, then click on this merge two rooms together?
I'm not quite sure if I understand your question correctly. So if you merge the zones, you do not have to put the opening in between, no.
Oh, okay. So the wall between the rooms will disappear automatically.
It will be, if there is a wall, it will be added as an internal mass automatically.
Okay.
Francesca, what was your question?
Hi.
Hi.
My question was related to the openings also, but I wonder if we can, if it is possible to combine two zones vertically, knowing floor plan. I have had a case where I have an atrium, like a hall that has different, every level has a different shape. So I was wondering if I can merge.
Yes, you can. So you mean like,
for example, it was in the floor plan.
Mm-hmm. So you mean like a shape like this, for example?
Yeah, exactly.
And
exactly. In the next level.
If I have something like this, you mean?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, this zone should be moved
Lower, yeah.
now. Yes, of course. So you mean like this? Yes,
yeah,
you are able to select them and select merge zones.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. That's good.
Yes, Simon has another question. The new air handling unit with the enthalpy wheel. In 4.8 there is a new air handling unit in your palette. It's called enthalpy wheel air handling unit. And if I double click it, you will see that there is a different heat exchanger added to this air handling unit, which is also able to transfer moisture from to the supply air from the return air, for example. Okay, so are there any more questions? You can still raise your hand. Yes, Sayed?
Yeah, I have a question regarding humidity. How it's possible to add humidity, ambient humidity, into the results
What do you mean
from
with
the climate data?
The climate data contains relative humidity of air.
No, not relative humidity. I mean absolute humidity.
I'm going to hand over to Sven. Maybe he can answer this question.
Okay.
Okay. I just need to check something because in the air handling unit you have this sensor.
Yeah.
For instance, you can always insert such a sensor in any air channel of your air handling unit, and if you have it here at the ambient air inlet, you can sensor ambient air, and here you can select between different sensors, and one of them is humidity ratio.
Great. Yeah, exactly what I meant.
Yeah, and then you can just lock this out signal to any diagram.
Okay. Thank you.
Welcome. So thanks a lot for your attention, and hope to see you again at one of our next webinars. Goodbye, guys.